side.
Julian, did you get challenged by any folks on Peloton? Is anybody trying to step up to the champ?
No, not yet. I actually have not checked my followers or non-followers, so I'm gonna need to. That's a good reminder. I'm gonna need to.
A lot of folks were talking a big game last time we were on about how they were going to be searching for, and then actually somebody messaged me randomly about like an SCF group on Peloton. Are you a part of this? Are you familiar?
No,
I don't even know
maybe
how
I should be.
Social media works, but apparently there's like some sort of SCF group on there.
Wow. Well, I am not part of that group, and I'm gonna need to figure that out. Because that's a group I wanna join. So
report back. Let us know.
Yeah,
anyway,
exactly.
Welcome everybody to our Facebook Live. Whatever questions you have about travel, cheap flights this summer, what is on your mind? Let us know. Drop comment section below or to the side. We're going to get to as many as we can. By law, I have to answer the first question, no matter what. So, without further ado, Julian, the floor is yours.
Yeah, we've got a question already, so let's just hop right into it today. I'm feeling productive today. Rico asks, any updates on Europe? Europe to France, or Europe, specifically France opening for U.S. citizens?
France has said that June 9th, 1 week from today, is when they will be opening up for U.S. citizens. I don't know off the top of my head if it's vaccinated or a negative test or vaccinated and a negative test. But certainly if you've been vaccinated and you have a test, you should be good to go. But yeah, it's looking like this time next week you'll be able to be over in France. So that'll be awesome. Excited for you. And yeah, plan on that being a possibility.
Yeah, let's just continue it. Next question is from Katie. Hey Katie. UK. Let's just keep moving in Europe. Scott.
No official update from the UK. The way the UK is handling it is they are updating. They're using this 3-tiered traffic light system, which, fun fact, I just found out that they, rather than referring to it as green, yellow, red, they refer to it as green, amber, and red. Who knew? One of those crazy Britishisms.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, up there with chips and lifts and amber. But anyway, they were reviewing it every 3 weeks. June 21st is a time that a lot of folks have targeted when a lot of the restrictions might go away, but there hasn't been any sort of official announcement or even indication kind of through the grapevine of when U.S. citizens are going to be able to visit the UK. I mean, all but certain it's going to happen this summer. It's just not exactly clear what time this summer. I think late June is a decent guess, but we don't have any like official updates yet.
Yeah, there you go. Trina asks a very similar question. Late June is what Scott was saying. I'm feeling Europe today. Germany, Scott, hit me with Germany.
Germany, I would guess it's going to be a little bit later. They're one of the countries that have been a little bit more conservative, not politically, but conservative with it just in terms of opening up. And so a number of, most of Europe is targeting sort of a late June, early July timeframe. That would be my best guess for when Americans can visit Germany, would be July at this point. Possible it could bleed into August. I would guess July. But again, this is not something that is based for certain. This is when it's looking like Germany is going to have the full, like when the EU adoption of this COVID certificate framework is going to be rolled out, and a number of countries are expected to be getting rid of those travel restrictions that exist today. So July, like very beginning of July, is my sort of base case when we don't know differently. So there's some countries like Ireland that have announced, I believe July 19th is when they're opening up for folks not only from the US, but also the EU and UK in lieu of a specific date. For places like Germany, early July is my best guess.
Yeah, I'm seeing questions about Portugal as well. I know Spain is opening, next week, but have you heard Portugal news?
So I haven't heard any news about Portugal yet. I would anticipate, I would be very surprised if you couldn't visit Portugal by the end of the month, by the end of June. Spain is actually in a really interesting position right now.
Okay.
The reason why I say that is Spain, the prime minister and a number of other folks had announced as recently as 1 week ago that Spain was going to be allowing in Americans on June 7th who had been vaccinated. Since then, there has quietly been a sort of government document that was published that seemed to indicate that that might not be until June 30th. Now, there's a lot of confusion and nobody's providing clarity as to whether Americans who have tickets to visit Spain next week, like yours truly, will be able to go or not. So I'm sitting here watching this like a hawk because, you know, I've got, like, me and my family have flights to visit Spain next week per what we were led to believe. Whether or not that's going to change, you know, I mean, it's like any moment we could hear an announcement. I sure hope we hear an announcement before we plan to get on that flight. But so there, in the meantime, the sort of position that we are finding ourselves in is having to look about what would be our backup plan. If we can't go to Spain, where will we go? And so we've been looking at nonstop, so we're flying into and out of Madrid. Where can we get nonstop flights to somewhere interesting nearby from Madrid that we could go for that week instead of Spain? Because Spain, even though they may, you know, like, it seems like there's a chance they may not let us visit Spain, they do let you transit the airport. And so we could fly to Madrid and then fly on to Dubrovnik. We could fly on to Athens. We could even fly down to Dakar in Senegal. If anybody has been to either Dubrovnik or Dakar, especially if you've been to Senegal, please, please, please let me know what you think of it, how you enjoyed your trip. I've never been to Croatia. I've never been to Senegal. Both seem awesome. I would love to go. I'd love to hear more from you seasoned travelers in the comment section if anybody's been to either of those, because right now those are our sort of leading backup plans. But yeah, it's an unusual time to be traveling, you know, there's so much uncertainty, and I get it that things are changing. I just hope we get some clarity pretty soon about whether Americans are going to be allowed in Spain next week or not.
It's it's definitely quite an adventure, just seeing if you can go or not. So fingers crossed for you. Lizzie points out probably one of the best issues of either working at Scott's or being a fan or a member of Scott Cheap Flights, and that is, my biggest problem with Scott's is after only paying $250 round trip for Ireland or Japan, it's hard to stomach paying $200 to fly to Chicago. I don't think I've related to something more than this.
That is, God, I feel so seen, because yes, I'm the exact same way. Now, like, every single flight I'm measuring against that $130 flight I got to Milan. And it's just like, oh God, I could have flown to Milan twice for that price I paid just to fly back to Dayton, Ohio. Like, this is terrible. It is an accidental byproduct of cheap flights, is that normal price flights now just seem horrendous, unthinkable.
Painful. I just had a conversation with my girlfriend yesterday where we're going to Florida in July, and we did completely the opposite of what you say we should do in your book, where, you know, we chose a time to go and then we chose a destination and then looked at prices. And throughout this whole process, like, it's just painful. As someone who, I mean, first of all, does this for a job, it's rough.
Sorry to hear that. Those expensive flights are avoidable. At least, you know, look, if you go in and you consciously make the choice to get an expensive flight because of X, Y, or Z, more power to you. Far be it from me to stop. But if you're somebody who really wants to get cheap flights, if you're saying, look, if I can get a cheap fare, I can take 3 vacations, 4 vacations for what I used to pay. That is, then, like, make cheap flights the top priority, not the last priority. You know, we talk, folks, we talk in chapter 3 of Take More Vacations, that the normal way of searching for flights is a 3-step process. Step 1, you decide where you want to go. Step 2, you decide when you want to go there. And only on step 3 do we look, well, what do the flights cost? And by setting price as the last priority, we get stuck with expensive flights. But instead, if you want to make cheap flights a priority, make it the top priority. Take that same 3-step process. Step 1, where are there cheap flights out of my home airport? Step 2, okay, yeah, I'd love to go to Hawaii, love to go to Dominican Republic, love to go to Cancun. They're all cheap right now. Step 2, choose one of those places that are cheap. Oh, man, let's go to Hawaii. Yes, sounds great. Step 3, what dates work for your schedule? By setting price as the top priority rather than the last priority, that's how you get a good deal.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the way to go. And sometimes it doesn't work out like that, and it happens. But it definitely, like Lizzie says, when you have to be paying $200 to a Chicago or a Florida, which is the same price to Europe or that wild Japan fare we had, it's definitely painful sometimes. Speaking of 200. Dina says, purchase tickets from SFO to Barcelona for $293 direct. Wow.
That's such a good price, man. And nonstop too. Well done, Dina.
Yeah. Enrique, what's up, Enrique? He says, not again at Lululemon. I thought I was wearing my Lululemon shorts. I am not wearing my Lululemon shorts. But he also says, booked 202 round trip flights to Japan in January 2022. So that's amazing. One of the best.
That is the best. I'm not sure if we've seen a better fare all year. Kudos to you for scooping that up.
Yeah. And perfect. We're going in our J's now. We went to Europe, Scott. Let's hit the J's. Heather asks Japan, and Dumaka asks Jamaica. So Japan and Jamaica. What are your thoughts on opening?
I mean, look, Japan. We don't know the best. We know the only thing we know for certain right now with Japan is that they are not allowing overseas fans in for the Olympics, and that goes through early August. So the ability to be able to visit Japan as a tourist in the next 2 months, no, not going to happen. Will it happen in the fall? I think there's a decent chance. I mean, my best guess in my head right now, again, without there being any sort of indication of any specific date, my best guess would be October, November, somewhere around there. A lot of folks will hear that, there are a lot of folks, oh, that's crazy. They're not going to open up till, for another year, a year and a half. That's what a lot of people said with Europe. That's what a lot of people said when I was predicting 3 months ago that by the summer, Europe, a number of different EU countries would be open. You'd be able to travel to Europe this summer. And lo and behold, it actually ended up opening up sooner than people had expected. So remembering that when you're talking about 5-6 months down the line, the way it would be with, October, November, that there's a cone of uncertainty around that. Think of those like hurricane maps where you show, it's not just it's going to go right up the middle. It's got this whole cone where it could go this way, it could go that way. Yep. That cone of uncertainty, it could definitely get pushed into 2022. But it could also open up sooner than we expect. It's possible that vaccinations will accelerate as they have been worldwide. It's possible that the number of infections will decrease as, the recent mini surge in Japan has been going in the right direction in the past week. It's been getting better and better. So look, don't get too caught up with the situation as it exists today, because that might not be any indication of what it's going to be in 5 months. Remember what it was in the US 5 months ago? It was awful. We were at our peak. Very few people had been vaccinated. 5 months later, well over half the country has had at least one shot, and it's very, very, very open. It's looking like a great summer. So October, November is my best guess at this point, but I think as we get closer to then, we're going to have more information about when it'll be specifically. Jamaica, let me pull it up real quick, but I think you can actually go to Jamaica right now with a negative test. Jamaica, no, it's still quarantine Jamaica. I'm a little surprised that that's the case, considering almost everywhere else in the Caribbean and Latin America is open for American travelers right now, either with no restrictions or requiring a negative test. I I don't know exactly when it would be in Jamaica, but I would be surprised if we were talking in August and Jamaica hadn't relaxed those restrictions to at least allow people in without a mandatory quarantine.
Yeah. Jeanette says, I had initially selected incorrect departure airports within Scotchy flights and have since corrected, but keep getting deals for all other airports except for the 2 that I need. Ooh, yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, make sure if your settings are, it shows the correct settings in the settings online in your profile. Reach out to support at Scotchy Flights. That was the advice that I had. Scott, did you have something different?
Yeah, and just go in and double click on your profile, log in, and try reselecting it again. It's possible that that'll fix it. I'm not sure exactly what might have happened, but if that doesn't fix it, or even, if you want to do side by side, do that and email support, and we'll make sure to get your account fixed.
The turn it off, turn it on again advice always. It always works.
It's worked since computers began.
Exactly. Also, yeah, I guess regarding your previous answer, that was the first time that I've heard someone use a hurricane prediction model as an analogy, and it made a lot of sense. I've got to say, there you go.
I've always been a man of many interests. I'm always like an inch deep and a mile wide, and so I try to draw in weird stuff where I can.
I mean, if it works, why not? So Lizzie asks, Ireland. You did just talk about Japan, but any specific thoughts about Ireland?
Sorry, what?
About Ireland?
Ireland. They're saying July 19th, I believe, is when Ireland has said they will open up for Americans as well as EU and UK citizens. You are going to need to be vaccinated and bring a recent negative test. But that is the plan right now, July 19th. I would be very surprised if that changed. Japan for February 2022, I think the odds are quite good. It's not 100%, but I would feel very good about my chances of being able to take that trip.
Yeah. Brooklyn Joe. He says, I got to stop going to Costco on Wednesdays. I have thoughts about this because as someone who loves Costco, but also, obviously prioritizing our Facebook Live travel talk with Scott and myself, I wouldn't rank Costco over the Facebook Live, but it comes close. I've got to say it comes close. So
I do love. Listen, I'm a Costco shopper. I'm not ashamed to admit it.
I love it. Best place in the world. Doug says, scored a great price on an Alaska trip in July. Thanks, SDF. That's awesome. Wisely reserved car, but now see no cars are available. What can I do to ensure we actually get a car?
Oh, man. This car apocalypse is bad, y'all. I checked the other day before I was about to do a TV hit, and just to see, what does it cost to rent a car right now in Maui? Literally, the cheapest car on the entire island of Maui. You want to take a guess, Julian? Do you already know?
No, I don't. I couldn't even guess. I mean, it's either going to be too low or too high. I feel like you just got me right. Yeah.
$600 per day was the absolute cheapest one per day. A week would have been over $4,000. Literally the cheapest car on the entire island of Maui. It's crazy. So look, the car apocalypse is real. Things are bad this summer. The best thing that you can do to ensure you get a car, it's good. First of all, great that you got a reservation. That is certainly the best thing that you can do to make sure that you've gotten there. But in terms of trying to make sure that the rental agency holds the reservation rather than just taking the reservation, you want to basically make sure that you come in with a backup plan. So, I mean, the things that you can do, you can call them before, call them a day or two before, try to confirm your reservation, be like, hey, I'm planning, maybe it's an anniversary trip, I'm bringing my family, I don't know, whatever the situation is, get a little goodwill to try to make sure that that car gets held for you. 2, hustle when you get off the plane. Oftentimes rental cars are given away first come, first serve. And so literally if you're, if there's one car left, if you're the first person in line, you're going to get it, not the person behind you. But the main thing otherwise that I would be doing is basically coming in with backup plans, coming in, got this reservation, I would say I'd have like 80% confidence that that'll work. But if it doesn't, I've got Turo already pulled up on my phone and can figure out like how to rent a car from a local. I've got, the local Toyota or Subaru dealerships in my phone, and I can try to rent through them. Even willing to maybe get a U-Haul or a truck from Home Depot or something like that in case that could work for you. Having backup plans is the best way to put yourself in a position that you're not showing up at Anchorage and being like, oh my gosh, I have no car and no plan.
Yeah, no, for sure. Also, John just gave us the best answer. I think he won all comments. He says Facebook Live in Costco. You know what? I think he's onto something there.
Oh man, only when they open up the free samples again. I need sustenance.
It's soon. I don't remember the exact date, but I saw news articles that are saying the free samples are coming back.
That's when we'll know nature's healing.
I know, all's right in the world. And then Katie makes a very good point too. She says they gotta let you into Spain.
Listen, I've never name dropped in my life. I would be so uncomfortable doing it. I would get laughed at in my face. But if there was ever time I wish I could do it, it would be this trip to Spain.
Yeah. Susan asks, this is one that I haven't seen too often. Any news about Malta? I'm scheduled to go there later this month.
It's a little bit unclear. So it had been the case that they announced that starting yesterday, they would allow an all vaccinated travelers. It seems as though there was a bit of backtracking in terms of Americans being able to visit, that it was maybe now restricted to countries that are on their, again, this traffic light system, they're green or amber list, but not on the red list. And at least as of today, the U.S. is still on the red list. And the reason why I know that is Malta is one of the places that I was looking about going if Spain does not work out.
There you go.
Now, the tricky thing is that those plans, those like rankings, those rating systems can change quickly. Like it's not as though they are, going to stay set in stone for the rest of the summer. Like, especially with how low the case counts are right now in the US, I would anticipate that there's a really good chance that by the end of the month, we will be allowed in there. But as the situation exists today, it is not possible to visit Malta today, even though it had seemed like it would be the case per their earlier announcements. It's obviously frustrating for those of us with plans who to go visit and then seeing them be a little bit upended, but trying to remember, that you don't need it to be open today, just need it to be open like later. And I think there's still a very good chance that will be the case.
Yeah. A couple comments saying, Tammy's saying Croatia is a must-see. It's amazing, beautiful, and so much history. John says he hears good things about Croatia. And you've got an invitation. Linda says, Scott, if you do get to Spain, we're in Valencia and I'll show you around. So,
Linda, I appreciate you.
That's amazing.
Can you talk to the Spanish authorities for me, please? Can you talk to the Prime Minister? Tell him we'd really like for this June 7th date to hold.
Yeah, super tiny favor to ask them. Chandra asks, planning to go to Costa Rica during the last week of December. What kind of prices am I expecting?
It depends where you're flying out of. If you're lucky enough to live in South Florida, you can expect very cheap flights. If you live in, let's say, New York, DC, LA, even Houston or Dallas, you can also expect some pretty good fares. Elsewhere, it's going to be a little bit tougher, but you're smart to be planning this far in advance for two reasons. Yep. One, because that's generally a good way to go, especially when you're talking about international flights, but it's doubly true when you're talking about traveling during a peak travel period like the last week of December. Folks have heard me give this advice, and I'll give it again. If you're hoping to travel during a peak travel period, always book opposite season. So when you are at your 4th of July barbecue, that's when you're booking your Christmas flights. And when you're opening up Christmas presents, that's when you're booking your summer flights for the next year. That's when you can expect to find the best deals. Because if you wait until November to book those Costa Rica flights, the odds of there being a good deal, not very good. it's hard to say exactly without knowing where you're flying out of, Chandra, but I would, gosh, I think I would generally be pretty excited with somewhere to Costa Rica under like, I'd be thrilled if I get under 350 over that holiday period. If it were not a holiday period, I'd be thrilled with anything under like 275. If you happen to be in South Florida, I would hope to get it under 200. But that's kind of the price points that I would have in my mind. And then knowing that you've got, a few months to hold out for something really good. You can be patient, hope that great deal pops up. And if it doesn't, no big deal. You can book it by, say, September and still get something at least decently priced.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree there. I would even say like maybe a smaller airport under 400, especially in that last week of December, could be good. But definitely from the bigger airports, 350, under 300 would be a great deal for sure. So yeah, hopefully we'll keep our eyes out and see what we can find for you there. The Dina asks about Switzerland. What are the chances it will be open in September?
I would say there's a very strong chance. Very strong chance. I'd basically be surprised. Any given country in Europe, I would be surprised if they're not open at some point in this summer. And so if you're talking about by September, very, very strong chance, not least of which because most of the continent will have had access to vaccinations by then. American rates will be very, very high by September. The case counts, God willing, are going to be very low. I would say there's a very strong chance this will happen.
KK asked, is this a book analogy? Maybe from you, Scott? Did you read the ice cream analogy? Do you want one ice cream with 3 scoops or one cone with 1 scoop each? I will say I'm mid chapter 4, so I either missed it or have not reached it yet. But
I think it might be in chapter 4, but she is a close reader. Well done, KK.
Wow.
Man, gold. I wish I had a gold star to give it to you. You knew she just pulled out a deep cut from Take More Vacations. Well done.
That's impressive. I'm gonna hope that I just have not gotten to it and not just skipped over it, because that'd be rough. But yeah, I'm mid chapter 4, loving the book so far. And that book is Take More Vacations by Scott himself. So definitely check that out. Dimitri asks, would they, I'm guessing this is regarding your Spain trip, would they let you transit at Madrid on separate tickets though? Is it possible to link legs onto your reservation?
It's a good question. My read of pouring through, the materials, the Spanish government materials, is that they do let you transit on separate tickets as long as you can show you do have an onward ticket. You can't leave the airport, and you can't even leave the international zone, but you can, it doesn't have to be on a single itinerary. There are some countries where that, at least earlier in the pandemic, had been the case, where let's say you wanted to fly to Turkey, which was open for Americans. You could fly to Paris and then on to Istanbul, but it had to be a single itinerary. You couldn't have separate itineraries. My read of the materials with Spain is that you can have separate itineraries, but if anybody obviously has done this or knows something different than me, please let me know. It might be very helpful for somebody who is going to be finding himself in Madrid airport and hopes to have a plan in about 5 days.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, by the way, that's why I won't be here next week. One of our trusty, amazing flight experts, Willis, is going to be gracing you with his presence next week, while I am in any one of 4 continents next week. I was talking about this with my wife. We might be in Europe.
Yeah.
We might be in Africa. We might be in the Caribbean. We might even be in the US. I don't know where we're going to be 1 week from now. And frankly, it's kind of exciting. It's kind of like,
no,
that's going to be. This is going to be great.
That's amazing. My girlfriend and I, for this week, there was a possibility that we were going to hit 4 out of the 5 boroughs in New York, and I thought that was, something else. But yeah, no, that's definitely taking it up a level. It's how many boroughs are we going to hit? It's which.
Are you giving short shrift to Staten Island again?
Are we what?
Are you giving short shrift to Staten Island?
I'm not gonna answer that question, but I'm also not gonna say no. So yeah, that may or may not be the correct answer. Brooklyn Joe says going to Charlotte in September for the Clemson Georgia game. Wow. Hopper is watching the flight price, which dropped today, but told me to wait. Whereas Google Flights notifies you, but doesn't give you a recommend. Yeah, both Hopper and Google Flights, I feel like, have really good services that are kind of separate, and it's just really interesting to see.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up this question of like how to think about those recommendations. Personally, I take them with a pretty big grain of salt. And the reason why I take it with a grain of salt is that while it's based on historical sense of like what airfare has done in similar situations, there's no way of knowing for sure what is going to happen in the same way that, you know, what the stock market did on June 2nd, 2020 doesn't necessarily have any relation whatsoever to what the stock market is going to do on June 2nd, 2021. I think it can be good context. I think it's helpful to know like sort of what fares have done in the past. But remembering, like, for instance, when those $202 Japan deals popped up a month or two ago, there was absolutely nothing whatsoever in the historical data that could have told us or anybody else that those $202 round trip flights were going to pop up. And so rather than trying to kind of play this algorithmic game of, oh, you know, by historical standards, is this going to drop or is it going to go up? Kind of setting an internal price of what I think is a good deal for flying from, gosh, I can't remember if you're in actually in Brooklyn now or elsewhere. But
yeah, he's somewhere else, I think.
Yeah, if you're flying to Charlotte, you know, what is the price that I'm hoping to get? Okay, let's say I'm trying to get under $200 because it's a, you know, I've got specific dates. Maybe it's a big weekend. A lot of people are flying there. And then kind of just setting that internal threshold where if it drops below that, I'm booking, and setting a deadline where it's like, if nothing is dropped by, let's say August, you know, at that point, I'm willing to book $225, $250, something like that.
Yeah. I'm seeing a few comments saying that they're already getting Costco free samples. So it's back. It seems like it's back.
Jealous, let me tell you. Yeah. I've been waiting.
All right. You want to take one final question, Scott?
Let's do it.
All right. Final question. Let's see. Comes from, let's go with Andrew. Andrew, he says, hi. Do you ever have business class deals?
Andrew, you're in luck. This is a little bit of a sneak peek. It is coming in about 2 weeks. If you go to scottscheapflights.com/elite. Do you remember the rest, Julian?
I'm trying to. I'll find it and I'll put it in the.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
We are about to launch this. We keep an eye when there's a business class mistake fare, like those $560 round trip flights to Asia that popped up in business class a couple years ago. We definitely send those out, but we're going to be launching a business class focus list here in the next week or two. We're going to drop a link in the comment section. We would love for you to give it a spin, see what you think. Because yeah, the number of great business class deals, especially over to Europe these days, we've been monitoring it for years. It's unlike anything we've seen before. I mean, flights from the US to Europe as low as like $1,000 in business class round trip, which again is going to be three or four times what you might be able to pay in economy, but is way, way, way lower than it used to be for business class, where you could normally expect to pay $2,500 or more. So we're going to be monitoring for those business and first class deals. When we find them, we're going to send them out to folks who are signed up for Elite. We'd love to give you kind of a sneak preview of it. Go check it out and tell us what you think. In the meantime, thank you everybody for being here. Thanks for your great questions. Please, please, please send some good juju my way for Spain to open up on June 7th.
Yes.
I would very much like to visit. And if not, you know what? Let us know in the comment section or let me know on Twitter where you think I should go instead. Should it be Croatia? Should it be Senegal? Yeah. Should it be Greece? Should it be, I don't know, the Dominican Republic? Should I just go have a live Facebook in New York with Julian instead?
In Costco. Yeah.
And in Costco. Any number of different possibilities. I want to hear where you, gosh, it's all very much in the air. So
Yeah.
Anyway, appreciate you all. Love you all. Talk again soon, and we'll see you back here next week.